Imagine waking up knowing that while you were sleeping, your finances were actually working for you to help you edge closer to financial independence. Instead of feeling stressed out and guilty about spending money, I'm going to show you a formula to help you automate your finances that'll help you actually enjoy what you've earned. So whether you need to build wealth, invest for the future, or finally kick some of that debt to the curb, the strategy that I'm going to share with you today is going to show you how you put your finances on autopilot so you can actually make money while you sleep. NASDAQ.com actually put out an article earlier this year, and it stated that only 17% of Americans use an automatic deposit to save money. What this means is that there's about 83% of Americans who are having to manage their finances manually. So every transaction that happens, they're have to try and figure out, wait, should I spend the money or should I save it or what should I do? And I don't think that they're realizing the amount of emotional toll it's actually taking on them. Check this stat out. In an April 2023 Bankrate.com survey, it was revealed that 52% of US adults feel the negative impact of money on their mental health. And of those who said money is a stressor, 29% of them said they worry about it daily. These numbers are heartbreaking, to say the least. Not only does it weigh on people mentally, but it's also detrimental to your actual finances. I found this stat on the Motley Fool that claims that the median retirement savings in 2022 is only $87,000. I don't know about you guys, but that's not going to last me very long at all. Another byproduct of not having your finances automated is this jaw-dropping data on credit card debt. Credit card debt in the US reached an all-time high of $1.08 trillion, which is up about 30% since the beginning of 2021. And what's even worse, if we're going to talk about averages, let me give you this one. The average credit card balance per consumer hit $6,088. And that's crazy. Why? Because the average APR rate on a credit card is now more than 20%, which is also an all-time high. So you can see, without a plan in place for your finances, it's going to lead to people feeling stressed out about their finances, drowning in debt, and never being able to save for the future. But don't worry, there's actually a simple solution to all these problems that will help you enjoy your income, pay off debt, and even invest for the future, and I'm going to show you step by step how you can do it. The whole idea behind automating your finances is actually removing the decision making from the entire process. All the decisions are actually made up front, so you don't even have to think about it. But I'll be honest with you, this solution does require discipline. But as former Navy SEAL Jocko Willink famously says, discipline equals freedom.
If you want to have financial freedom, well, then how are you going to get there? The answer is you have to have financial discipline.
So let's begin by taking a deep dive into your financial pool. We need to analyze your monthly income so that we can figure out how to shape your finances. But the idea here is not to actually budget for your immediate expenses, actually the exact opposite. What we want to do is design your finances so that we're actually prioritizing the things that are actually going to help you build wealth instead of things that won't, like going to Taco Bell 5 times a week. Taco Bell! Alright, we want to keep this as simple as possible. So your finances should really only have 3 major buckets: saving, giving, and living. Now, if you've watched any of my other videos, you've probably heard me say this before, and that is that personal finances are personal. So what works for somebody else may not work for you. So you're going to have to determine what percentage of your income needs to be allocated to each single bucket. If you're stuck or unsure of where to start, I personally throw 70% into my living bucket, 20% goes into my savings bucket, and 10% goes into giving. And I've also seen a lot of people start off with an 80-15-5 approach to help them get started, but don't worry, you can always come back and change these percentages later on. Once you have your percentages ready to go, we can now use the help of a budgeting app to help us with our expenses. Think of the budgeting app as your financial HQ. And if you've never used a budgeting app before, I recommend using either Simplify by Quicken or Monarch, since apparently Mint is now being discontinued as of January 2024. Once you've picked a budgeting app, you'll want to go through each of the expense categories and adjust those to what you actually spend money on. Be careful here. Sometimes these apps go crazy with the number of default categories that they have. You really should need more than about 10 or so. Don't spend too much time here. Then you'll want to add in all of your accounts. This would be things like your checking account, your savings account, your credit cards. You can actually even add in your retirement accounts if you'd like to. That will help you track your performance as well as your net worth. Then I recommend going through at least the last quarter of expenses and categorizing them all. The reason why is because sometimes I'm working with clients, they'll say, oh yeah, this is just a one-time expense, but then I find it every single month. So So this will help you identify trends and patterns in your own spending. What's super cool about these budgeting apps is you can actually make rules that can auto-categorize your expenses for you. So once you've done it one time and categorize that expense, in the future it will auto-categorize it for you. And the one that I'm using is actually called Monarch, and actually when I put it in and made a rule, it went back retroactively for like 3 or 4 years and auto-categorized that expense for me, which is pretty nice. Now that you've reviewed your expenses for the last quarter, you should have a nice average monthly expense picture. Now comes the hard part. We've got to get your expenses down to meet your allocated percentage for living expenses. If your expenses are already lower than the designated amount, use the extra cash to throw yourself a party or something.
I believe in magic!
Then you want to review each category in order from how much you spent in the previous month so we can actually start knocking out some big wins right off the rip. Small changes in big spending areas can yield significant results. And what I noticed when I did this exercise is that my restaurant category was way too high. Another category where I realized that I struggled was coffee. And now remember, this is just me. I know there's a lot of finance guys out there that are saying,
oh yeah, if you try to just cut out your coffee, it's not actually going to help you move the needle at all in your finances.
well, it will if you abuse coffee like I did. I was easily spending $7 a day on a good day and probably double that on a bad day on just coffee. So I was easily spending probably $200 a month just on coffee. So for me, I ended up actually cutting out coffee for health reasons anyway, but this is why I say that finances are personal, because for me, it actually does move the needle. But if you're only spending $50 a month on coffee, then maybe it's not really worth it to cut it out for you. So you're gonna have to figure out where in your budget you need to cut back for you. In this example of Monarch, you can actually set goals for each specific category. So every month you can actually see if you over or underspend. Monarch actually sends me emails too, and I'm being a dum-dum and I overspend in a category in the middle of the month. A side note, you may need to be ruthless with your cutting. But with that being said, be sure to leave yourself some fun money. I've seen this before. People get really motivated with their new budget and they think, I don't have to have fun anymore.
You're fake news. You have an agenda.
What ends up happening is they don't stick with the budget and they end up falling right back into their old habits. What's great about the budget that we're building is that the money that you've allocated for restaurants or shopping or whatever it is 100% fair game, and you should not feel guilty about actually spending that money because we're being so disciplined in all other areas of our finances now. Another way to find success with your budget is a reward-based system. So if you hit your budgeted numbers for that bucket, you can reward yourself with something that you wanted to do. If you're still having trouble finding enough things to cut back on, you may have to make significant changes in order to hit your numbers. So this could mean getting rid of your car and finding a less expensive car payment, or it could be getting a roommate or finding a less expensive place to live. The other option is actually trying to make more income by taking on extra hours at another job or Ubering or something flexible like that. But once you're actually able to cut enough out of your living expenses to get that amount down to your budgeted living expense bucket, congrats. I know that is not easy to just stop doing things that you're used to doing, especially if you're dealing with a family. But trust me, in the end, it's gonna be so worth it. Now is the fun part. We can actually start automating things so we can put our finances on autopilot. First, let's tackle the living bucket. To automate this bucket, it's actually pretty simple. Most people already have a credit card, so what you wanna do is make sure that every bill you possibly can is being paid by the credit card. If you don't trust yourself or you think you're not responsible for a credit card, that's okay. Just make sure that your checking account is paying all your bills that you possibly can. Then you'll want to set your credit card to auto pay the full balance a couple of days before the due date. I personally like credit cards because of the points that you can earn, so basically every time that I travel, it's free. Your mortgage, rent, or some utilities may not allow you to actually use a credit card to pay for those bills. So for those ones, you'll just want to make sure those are automated every single month and coming directly from your checking account. The next step is to automate your savings bucket. Now, part of this bucket may actually already be automated and you might not even know it through a 401k contribution that you're making through your paycheck. Now, I'm not a huge 401k guy, but if an employer is offering to match me on anything for a 401k, I'm definitely going to take advantage of that. Now, the savings bucket may mean different things for different people. Some people may be using this cash to actually pay off debt, and others may be using it to invest. But either way, the idea is the same. If your goal is to pay off debt right now, then what you'd want to do is save up a couple months of expenses. And then once you have that, you want to make automatic payments to whatever that debt is in the amount of the savings bucket. So for example, if you're trying to pay off a credit card, what I would do is set up automatic payments in the amount of my savings bucket straight to that credit card. Then every month, since you have all of your expenses taken care of, you'll automatically start knocking out the debt without even having to lift a finger. Then you'll just want to repeat this process with each debt that you want to pay off until you're completely debt-free. And then you can join in on the fun stuff. Investing. If you're ready to start investing, I'd recommend opening up an account on Robinhood or Webull. Just make sure that whatever you're using has commission-free trading. I'm sure you've heard of the term of being diversified before, and I completely line up with that logic. And so that's why my favorite investment strategy is actually using ETFs. And for me, I like having large cap, small cap, value, growth. I like having exposure to a little bit of international and emerging markets myself. But if you're just getting started and you don't really know where to start, you could take a look at whole S&P 500 ETFs like VOO or SPY. Okay, and then next, this is really important, you're gonna wanna set up a recurring investment in the amount of whatever your savings bucket number is. And if you're just starting out investing, it may not seem like a ton of money, but trust me, if you stick with this over time, you're gonna wake up one morning and you're gonna realize, hey, I've got a nice sized portfolio here. Okay, and last two things on this real quick. I get a lot of questions around, well, Thomas, I wanna go on vacation or I wanna travel or whatever it is. How should I budget for that? Well, what I would say is through my bank, I can create like different pockets in my savings account. So if I want to go do something, I can just call it a vacation pocket. And as soon as I get paid, money will automatically flow into there, kind of like a mini bucket. So that's what I would do for that. The second thing is don't touch your investing portfolio at all. And make sure you're always investing in the exact same funds. Over time, this is going to leverage what's called dollar cost averaging. I don't want to get into what that's called today, but it's going to make you a ton of money over time as long as you're consistently investing the same funds over time. So now your financial game is set on cruise control and your bills are getting paid like clockwork. And here's the best part, you're putting money away effortlessly towards your future, which is all getting done while you sleep. And when you decide to treat yourself to that fancy dinner, new clothes, or video game or whatever it is, you don't have to feel guilty because you know that your finances are on autopilot and everything is being handled for you. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, you're definitely gonna want to check out this video right over here.